3 weeks ago, a single social media post ignited a firestorm across West Africa. An Igbo man in Ghana announced plans for something he called a cultural village. Within hours, #Igbo Kingdom was trending. Ghanaians were comparing it to Palestine, Israel. Politicians were demanding investigations. But here's what nobody saw coming. The land was never bought, the kingdom was never built, and the man at the center of it all, he has been staying in Ghana for over 30 years, married to a Ghanaian woman, and has no criminal record.
I came to Ghana 8th of February 1995. That's my first trip to Ghana.
Okay.
So what's really happened here, and why does this story reveal something terrifying about Africa's future? I'm about to show you how one Facebook post nearly destroyed decades of African integration efforts, and how we are all complicit in what happens next. Welcome to Strategic Lens. I'm Osonwe Luis, and here we don't just report news, we uncover what it actually means. The number of millionaires in Africa is going to increase by 47% over the next 10 years. That's the highest increase in the whole world. And we want you to be part of it. That's why we make videos on businesses and geopolitics, so that you don't just do business, but you know what's going on around you. Now let's go back to our topic of today. We are starting today's investigation by asking a simple question. If Chinese investors can buy thousands of acres across Africa, if there are Chinatowns in every major city, and if Ghana rolls out red carpets for Americans, why did one Igbo man's cultural center idea nearly cause international incidents? The answer will shock you, but first let me introduce you to the most misunderstood man in West Africa right now. His name is Eze Dr. Chukwudi Jude Ihenetu, but forget everything you think you know about him. He arrived Ghana in the 90s, not as some land-grabbing shema, but as a young Nigerian looking for opportunities. He fell in love with a Ghanaian woman, got married, had children who speak both Twi and Igbo. For 3 decades, he has been what we would call a model immigrant. No criminal records. He's been involved in community projects, building bridges between cultures. But here's where the story gets interesting. Somewhere along the way, Ihenetu became what's called an Eze, a cultural representative of the Igbo people in Ghana. Think about it like being president of the Nigerian Association, but with traditional ceremonies. Then, 3 weeks ago, he made one social media post that changed everything. He talked about building a cultural village on 50 acres in the Pram region. That is a place where Igbos could celebrate their heritage, grow traditional crops, and help newcomers build.
But I'm creating Igbo village, which has never happened in the history of the world among the Igbos in the world. As I'm talking to you, I've acquired 50 acres of land.
Sounds innocent, right? Here is where it gets complicated. Now, within hours, the post he made became twisted beyond recognition. People started calling it kingdom. Others said he was buying sovereignty. Someone even created fake maps showing an Igbo state within Ghana. But here's what really happened, and this is where the story becomes a masterclass of how good intentions can become diplomatic disasters. Mistake number 1. Ihenetu bypassed traditional authorities completely. Instead of quietly approaching local chiefs first, he announced his plans on social media. In African culture, that's like building a house without greeting your neighbors. Now, to all the new people coming in Africa, Africa has its cultures. If you get into a new neighborhood and you build a house and just move there with your families, your neighbors are going to frown with you forever. You need to greet them. Now, that's in that context, but when you apply it to this context, it matches perfectly. Mistake number 2, he used the word palace to describe his headquarters. In a republic like Ghana, where traditional kings have ceremonial rules only, that word carries heavy political weight. Mistake number 3, when rumors started spreading, he stayed silent. By the time he tried to clarify, lies had already circulated the globe 3 times. But here's the thing that would blow your mind. I obtained government records, traditional council statements, parliamentary confirmation, and guess what? No land was ever sold. No kingdom was ever built. No sovereignty was ever threatened. So why did thousands of people believe it was? To understand this explosion, you need to understand what's really happening in West Africa right now. Ghana's economy is under pressure, and when times get tough, communities often look for someone to blame. We have seen this movie across our continent. We've seen this before in South Africa. When opportunities feel scarce, fellow Africans become easy targets while foreign investors get protection. But there is something deeper here, something that goes to the heart of who we are as Africans. The idea of any group establishing what looks like autonomous governance triggers historical trauma. When people heard Igbo kingdom, they didn't think cultural center. They thought, here we go again. Foreigners are carving up our land. That's why social media exploded with Palestine-Israel comparisons, not because the situations were similar, but because the fear of losing sovereignty is universal. But here's what nobody's asking. Are we protecting our sovereignty, or are we destroying our own future? When we see Ibrahim Traore fighting for Africa and Pan-Africanism, we hail him, we cheer, we share his videos, but we forget something crucial. We all have our role to play. John F. Kennedy once said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." In most of my videos, I receive hundreds of comments saying, "Africa rise, Africa unite." Well, don't just comment Africa rise, Africa unite. Ask what you are doing to make Africa rise. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. We have the Continental African Free Trade Area. We have ECOWAS protocols allowing free movement. Our leaders signed treaties promising unity and integration. But when a Nigerian wants to establish a cultural center in Ghana, legally, respectfully, with proper procedures, we panic. Meanwhile, Chinese investors control ports across Africa. European companies establish exclusive communities. American retirees build gated enclaves in countries like Ghana. Where is the outrage here? Ghana celebrates African Americans through the Year of Return, which is a good thing that I have promoted through this channel. I've made several videos on that talking about the Year of Return, and I praise President Akufo-Addo about that. But when fellow Africans, people who share borders, languages, and recent histories want similar connections, we suddenly become protective. Do you see the contradiction? Here is why this matters beyond Nigeria and Ghana. By the year 2050, Africa's population will be 2.5 billion. For every 4 people globally, 1 will be African. To create opportunities for this massive population, we need to think like one continent, not 54 competing nations. Europe learned this lesson despite centuries of wars. They chose unity over division. Today, a French person can live in Germany, work in Italy, and retire in Spain without anyone calling it invasion. But if we can't trust each other enough to allow cultural villages, how can we build economic partnerships? How can we create the United States of Africa that our leaders keep promising? when we look at successful examples, Ghanaian communities in Ivory Coast, Nigerian businesses throughout West Africa, Kenyan companies in Uganda, we see the potential of mutual benefits. The original vision included mentorship programs, cultural exchange centers, agricultural projects. These could have benefited local Ghanaians too. Instead, he got accusations, investigations, and missed opportunities. But here's what gives me hope about this story. This controversy also shows Africa's strength. People cared enough to debate. They asked for transparency. They protected their sovereignty. Traditional authorities stood firm. Politicians responded to citizens' concerns. The solution isn't to stop this conversation. It's to have them more constructively. We can establish clear frameworks of cultural communities. We can create guidelines that can respect sovereignty while promoting unity. We can learn from this moment because, as we say in Africa, when the roots of a tree begin to decay, it spreads death to the branches. But when the roots intertwine and strengthen each other, the whole tree grows taller. The Igbo village controversy, it's really a mirror. It reflects our deepest fears and our highest aspirations, our colonial trauma and our integration dreams. We can choose to see threats everywhere and miss the opportunities for growth, or we can choose to build the Africa we keep talking about. But it starts with us, how we respond to each other, how we communicate, how we choose unity over suspicion. So here's my question to you. What does African integration look like to you? Should cultural communities be welcome if they follow proper procedures and respect local laws? How do we balance protecting sovereignty with building continental unity? And more importantly, when you comment Africa Rise on my videos, what are you personally doing to make that happen? Let me know down in the comments below. Let's have that conversation our continent needs, because the future of Africa isn't in the hands of politicians or chiefs or cultural leaders. It's in ours. If this investigation opened your eyes on something new, subscribe to the Strategic Lens. We are building a community where Africans and friends of Africa can engage with ideas shaping our future. Until next time, keep thinking strategically. Bye.